join as they make it in. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. A couple of things. I had a list of things to tell you guys, and I've lost the list of things to tell you. That's not it. Okay. We'll wing it. It'll be fine. You guys, it's B day. So tomorrow is an A day. So don't forget that because I'm having trouble. So I'm sure you guys are probably having trouble too. I can't remember what all I was going to tell you guys. So we'll just jump in. In your February folder, you guys have these assignments from last week. The Nearpod that wasn't working, I fixed it. And I just took the videos out. So when you click on the Nearpod, it should work properly. You may have to go through and redo those first couple of questions, but that's all you'll have to do. I have a turn-in for that I'll copy over to y'all's course from A-Day that will be for the PDF that is on the California Gold Rush. So you guys can turn that in as well. This week, what we're going to do this week, today we're going to review the Oregon Trail and the California Gold Rush and kind of lay out where we're going for the next couple of weeks. And then on Friday, we'll talk about the Mexican-American War and Texas Revolution and all of that good stuff. We are going to be, for lack of a better term, we're going to be kind of jumping timeline throughout all of this because you have so much happening in the 1800s that if we try to do it on a just a basic, straightforward timeline, things are going to get muddled and confused. So we're going to take it in a couple of different parts. We're going to talk about expansion this week. Next week, we will talk about the Industrial Revolution and how that spanned and helped further expansion out west and helped more and more people get to the west. And then we will come back and we'll talk about Andrew Jackson's presidency and the kind of political movements that were happening during this same period. So all of this is kind of the lead up to the Civil War. We'll do the Civil War either at the end of March or the beginning of April. So we've got a lot of build up to get there, but all of this kind of ties into that. All of this ties into the escalation of hostilities and tension between two halves of the country. So super important stuff that we're going over, just simply because it all builds to the Civil War, which is kind of like the main point of this class. You guys do have a states quiz and you do have a vocab quiz at the end of this month, so make sure you're ready for it. We're also going to have a quiz on all of this stuff that we've been going over for this month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. So I do apologize because I'm going to talk a mile a minute. But when we go through these, I'm going to hit the high points and tell you what you might want to remember because you'll probably end up seeing it again, like on your quiz and stuff. So if you wanted to follow along with your own PowerPoint, or if you wanted to take a few notes on the important things, I might advise that just so you know what's coming for the quiz. Sound good? Questions, comments, concerns about any of that? All right. So I'm going to go super fast. If you guys have questions, let me know and you can break in and ask them. So we're going to start with the Gold Rush, which actually comes after the Oregon Trail, but is the shorter PowerPoint. So the California Gold Rush it's going to begin in 1848, and it's going to be the first, it's not the first finding of gold in the country, but it is going to be the first big, it's going to lead to the first big migration out to California. In January of 1848, this dude, James Marshall, discovered gold at Sutter Sawmill in Coloma, California. All of that is stuff I would know. I would know who James Marshall is. I would know about Sutter Sawmill, and I would know which part of California it is, because all of those are the starting points. He tries to keep it a secret, but as happens with such things, it did not remain a secret. So everybody else heard that there's gold in California, and they rushed out there to try to make it rich. All right, question of who owns California is a big deal. We're really going to get into this on Friday when we talk about the tensions between Mexico and the United States. So when gold is discovered in 1848, technically, because this is January of 1848, technically California is still a part of Mexico. But after we fight the Texas Revolution and the Mexican-American War, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo is going to be signed, and that's in February of 1848, and California becomes part of the United States. So we gain California, New Mexico, Arizona, and portions of Texas. It's very close to what the border down the bottom border of the country looks like today. So I would know that we got California in 1848 after the Spanish-American War. This is just a boom town, and you need to know the difference between a boom town and a ghost town. A boom town is it's a town that is booming. A lot of people are coming out there and making the towns larger and larger. And then a ghost town is what happens when the gold runs dry. So Marshall's discovery was just one small area of the Mother Lode, which is a huge huge vein of gold ore. It's going to be something like $2 billion in gold that's going to be found, and it's going to lead some 300,000 people and their money into California. So it says over the next 8 years, it's really going to extend from 1848 to about 1858, 59. It just kind of trickles off those last couple of years because of the tensions that are going to be the Civil War. Population explosion very quickly led California to become a state in 1850. Other states have a lot of trouble becoming states entering the Union. California was not one of those. If you have ever watched Scooby-Doo, you should know what the Minor 49er is. It's just what they called the people who rushed out to California because they got there in 1849. There you go. You don't need to know about these trails because we're just going to focus on the Oregon Trail. Just know that there were others. We are not going to talk too much about panning for gold because you don't really necessarily need to know the method to pan for gold. All you do need to know is that as the gold became harder and more expensive to find, more prospectors turned underground and actually started like mining for the gold. What you think of today, they created long mining systems and all of that just to get more gold, because panning for gold in the rivers and things like that, you can only find so much. All right, this is important, not because of the supplies needed, but because as the demand for supplies increased, so did the prices. So the people who sold the mining equipment actually ended up making more than what the prospectors were making. So if you wanted to strike it rich, you could go out to California. If you wanted to be smart and strike it rich, you would sell mining supplies to the people who are flocking in droves out to California. These people really played the capitalist system extremely well and managed to make a good bit of money off of it. Here's a ghost town. A ghost town is when the gold runs out and everybody leaves. So a boom town, everybody's coming in. A ghost town, everybody's leaving. You will see those questions again. So I would make sure I know the difference between the two. You can still go and visit a whole bunch of, I went the wrong way. You can go and visit ghost towns still today. A lot of them still stand out in California, but also in like Utah, Nevada. I think there might even be a few up around Oregon. Just because when people left, they abandoned it and didn't need it anymore. And the land had been technically bled dry. So they said sayonara and left the building standing there. So we can still see them. You can go and visit them. Yet again, if you watch Scooby-Doo, then, you've seen a ghost town on Scooby-Doo. But there you have it. If you ever get to go, it's really cool. Not the first and not the last. California Gold Rush is the most well known, but it's not the first one. The first one actually happened in North Carolina in 1802. All right. We don't care about all of that. Nope. Okay. So after the gold rush, people started finding obviously the gold, but they also found silver, copper, zinc, and huge lead deposits, as well as large oil deposits are going to be found throughout the West, which is going to make more and more people want to go out so that they can strike it rich. Think of like the Beverly Hillbillies, you know, they accidentally hit an oil vein and made it rich. That kind of thing is going to be a big factor in why people want to go to this unsettled, uncharted territory, because, you know, money talks, I guess. All right, that is all about the gold rush. Any questions about the gold rush? Okay. We're going to go through the Oregon Trail very quickly as well. Manifest Destiny. This is what we talked about last week, and it's what we're going to be covering for the entirety of pretty much this entire unit. It's this belief that the United States is destined to stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific coast. It's the idea that it is divinely destined for them. So God intended for the United States to be from one coast to the other. That's going to give them a lot of, it's going to give the settlers this kind of oddly, no, that's not the way to say it. It's going to give them the excuse, I guess, to push other people out of the way, because they believe that they were intended to own the entirety of what is now today the continental United States. So when they were moving out, they kind of excused themselves, and they used that ideology to justify why they pushed Native Americans off of land that they wanted, why they pushed the Spanish, the Mexican army, Mexican population out of California, Texas, Utah, Arizona, all of that. So Manifest Destiny is going to be the excuse. I guess excuse is a good word. All right. Push and pull factors. So push and pull factors are super important. You are definitely going to see these again. Push and pull factors are what makes you want to go somewhere or leave where you're at. Anytime that you're thinking about maybe moving or something along those lines, you have push and pull factors. If you think about it, here in a few years, you guys are going to you're going to want to move out of your house, out of your parents' house. Either to go to college or to start out on your own, different things like that. Your pull factors for leaving home, that's going to be reasons why you want to go somewhere else. So if you wanted to go to college, that would be a pull factor to where you're going. Let's say you wanted to go to the University of Alabama. Your pull factor for leaving Huntsville and going to Tuscaloosa is that the University of Alabama is in Tuscaloosa. You could say, I want to go play football at the University of Alabama. That would be a pull factor. It's pulling you to the destination. All right. In the sense of the Oregon Trail, reasons that people are going to Oregon and in general, just out west, there's abundant, fertile, and free land, which is super important because land is free land goes a long way for people, because if you can farm it, you can turn it into money. The discovery of gold was a big one. And then there's this kind of perception that there are better and more opportunities out west than there were in the currently settled area, which, you know, it's like the grass is always greener on the other side kind of mentality. Everything, you know, you guys think that things will be better when you get out of your parents' house, or at least, okay, I know I did when I was a kid. But, you know, it's that desire that whatever you're going towards is going to be better than what you're leaving behind for some reason or another. All right. Push factors. Push factors are the things that push you away. Why do you leave the area that you are leaving? Why do you leave your home? So back to high school, you guys go into college or something like that. If you want to leave your parents' house, maybe some of the push factors that make you leave are your parents have very strict rules, you have a strict curfew, maybe you want to get away from your siblings. All of these are push factors and why you would want to leave. For people in Oregon and heading out west, there was a lot of economic depression, which we're going to cover when we talk about Jackson's presidency. There's a lot of conflicts before, during, and after the Civil War. A lot of it has to do with this idea of the state government versus the federal government, and how are they meant to interact based on the Constitution, what powers go to which one, and then also to do with slavery, because that is going to be the large catalyst that sets it off. People left for religious reasons. The most prominent of those are going to be the Mormons, who go out into Utah, Nevada area, and then the desire for better opportunities. All right, we're not going to talk too much about the supplies, because you don't really need to know all that much. All you need to know is that there's 2,000 pounds of supplies per wagon approximately, and you have to have food, clothes, weapons, tools, bedding and tents, anything that you're going to need to get you along the Oregon Trail, which is about 4 to 6 months, to get you out there, and then to get you to where you can settle an area. So, you're picking up everything that you have and taking it on a wagon train out west. So, you've got to be prepared for whatever you come across. All right, draft animals. There are 3 different kinds of draft animals that were commonly used on the Oregon Trail. You do need to know which ones they were and the kind of pros and cons of each. So horses travel quickly, but if you have ever owned a horse or been around somebody who does own a horse, they can sneeze and have some kind of debilitating illness. They are extremely hard to take care of because they are easy to injure. Horses are expensive, really pretty, great animals. They travel quickly, they mind well, but they eat a lot, and they can't pull exceptionally heavy loads. That's one. The second one is the mules. Mules are not as quick as horses, but they pull heavy loads with less food. We say stubborn as a mule for a reason. Mules are, I don't like mules. I have a lot of personal history with them that it's that drives it down. But mules are extremely stubborn. They're very, very, very hard to train, and they're pretty expensive as well. Oxen is going to tend to be your most typical means of travel, because they are slow, but they can pull a lot of weight. They don't have to eat a lot, and they can eat just about anything. Easy to train because they're pretty stupid, and they are extremely affordable. So those are your 3 animals. You can travel very quickly, but not carry a lot. You can have something that carries a lot, but is a pain to work with. Or you can have oxen, which travel very slow, so it'll take you probably 6 months or more to get across the trail, but you can pull a lot more, and they're pretty chill. So know those 3 things. You don't have to know any of the interesting facts. The buffalo chips that are dried buffalo droppings, that's used to fuel fires. That is interesting. Most people walked and didn't ride in the wagons unless you were a child, sick or injured, or pregnant. You walked the trail. You didn't get the luxury of riding in the wagon or anything like that. So, it was an intense journey. Then railroad travel is going to eventually replace wagon trains, which we'll talk about that next week. Okay, all you have to know for this. Independence, Missouri is the starting point. Oregon City is the end point. Independence Rock and Chimney Rocks are just 2 of the big stops and trail markers along the way. There we go. There's start, common stops, finish. It's 2,200 miles from one end to the other. We used it from 1841 to about 1884. That's an approximate because as the railroads become more prominent, more people are going to go to that instead of using the Oregon Trail. But some people still traveled it even after 1884. It takes 4 to 6 months. We already talked about that. About 500,000 people went down it. Let's see. There's one other thing, or 1 or 2 other things. Okay, how people died. So 10% of people who traveled down the trail did not make it. They died from a variety of diseases, accidents, and all of that. But even though, if you like, I don't know if you guys watch westerns, you might watch westerns. If you do, Hollywood has a lot of, they like, battles and blood and gore and what have you. Um, Indian attacks happened fairly regularly, but very few people actually died because of those. It's about 362 pioneers and 426 Indians. These are very approximate numbers. Um, and that's overall. Now, after you have military involvement and rising tension between Native Americans and the settlers and the US government, it's going to get a bit more dangerous, and you have a larger possibility of being killed by Native Americans. But overall, it's not the way Hollywood portrays it, I guess, is the point. A lot of people died from drought or fatigue and poor nutrition. Most people die from accidents, just common accidents, like, if you fall and break your leg or something like that, and you're on the trail with no there aren't doctors along the way. So a lot of people died from just common accidents like that. And then the majority of people died because of travelers' death. No, because of diseases that affected them on the trail. There we go. Most people died from cholera or dysentery, if you've ever played the actual game. All right, that is it. And I'm so sorry for talking so much and going so fast through all of that. Do you guys have questions or comments, concerns, anything like that about anything we've talked about? Okay. All right. So you have 2 assignments for this week. Both of them have to do with the Mexican-American War. One is the Heroes and Ghosts of the Alamo, which is just a reading and you answer some questions. Super easy. And then the other one is a letter from Colonel William Travers, who was at the Alamo, and it's a letter to the rest of the Texans. That you read that, and there's a couple of questions on it as well. So make sure you do both of those. If you haven't turned in assignments from last week, make sure you do those. And other than that, you guys are free to go.